okay, they don't get it. Just know you doing well if you got a lot of critics.
Welcome to NBA Countdown, presented by Mountain Dew.
Happy Friday night and welcome to NBA Countdown. I'm Maria Taylor, coming to you live from the Seaport District of New York City, brought to you by Chase. Now, you've been hearing all about the big three from the Nets. Our big three will be here, Woj, Jalen, and Jay Will. But let's start with a little bit of news that's still trickling out from Brooklyn. And of course, it has to do with Kyrie Irving. He'll lose nearly $900,000 as a result of a violation of the NBA's health and safety protocols. The league announced that today. The NBA fined Irving $50,000 for violating the coronavirus safety protocols, and the All-Star will also forfeit his salary for the 2 games he missed. In addition, he's out for Saturday's game against the Magic due to health and safety protocols. Now we welcome in our senior NBA insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. And well, there's so many questions, but I want to know how the Nets are handling this situation with Kyrie, and of course, how it all came together with the Harden trade this week.
Maria, Kyrie Irving, I was told, was eager to play tomorrow night, debut potentially with James Harden and of course Kevin Durant. But ultimately it was decided, listen, because he's been away, hasn't played a practice since January 5th, that just putting him back on the court in a game situation might not be the wisest thing to do. He'll have an opportunity to rejoin the team, potentially practice on Sunday, and then play Monday against Milwaukee. And he comes back to a very different reality with these Nets than prior to his extended absence. The James Harden deal had been discussed between Houston and Brooklyn really for a couple months on and off. It did heat up this past week while Kyrie Irving was away. And you know, for Brooklyn, listen, it is insurance for Kevin Durant's future with the Nets, and having James Harden on board. They don't want to lose KD in free agency, and it comes up quickly. He could be a free agent. All 3 of these players could by the end of next season. But remember this, too. The Nets' plan was always to use the assets they had built up to go get a third-star player. James Harden happened to become available. If a player, hypothetically, like Bradley Beal was available and he hasn't been, you know, that would have been a target for the Nets and any number of other, big market teams in the league. But right now, you know, Kyrie Irving returns to a 3-man starry cast here, unlike we've really seen here in the modern era of the league in terms of trying to figure out how are they all going to fit together, how is this going to work?
Yeah, Woj, we're going to find that all out on Monday. Stick around, don't go anywhere. Plenty more with Adrian Wojnarowski. Let's get into what this big three is going to look like on the court. We know so much about offense, but they say defense wins championships, and every single NBA champion since 2003, the Spurs, they ranked in the top 11 in defensive efficiency. It's hard to see this group doing that. The Nets currently ranked 13th, and that was before acquiring James Harden and sending out their best rim protector in Jarrett Allen. But how does this offense work? Let's ask James Harden.
I can't predict how it's going to go. Kyrie might score, 10 possessions in a row. KD might score 10 possessions in a row. Like, they're more than capable of that. And I'm fine with that, because we're going to be winning and it's going to be good. So tomorrow we'll see, and it's going to be fun, and I'm excited about it.
How would you describe your conditioning level now at this point in the season?
Great.
Conditioning doesn't matter if you can score on the court. Jalen and Jay Will are here with us now. Jalen, I want to start with you. KD, Kyrie, and James Harden. How does this work on a court?
This is about to be a new era version of what we saw when LeBron James joined Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh in Miami. I'm not saying they're going to win the championship this season because that big three didn't win it in its first season as well. But I'm interested to see if they're going to be able to win a couple. And it's exactly what the East Coast needed, a villain. You got KD, who left the Splash Brothers after winning back-to-back finals MVPs and hurting his Achilles. Kyrie Irving left the opportunity to play with LeBron James and the Boston Celtics. James Harden basically told the Rockets, trade me or else. And so these 3 guys on the same team at the same time, elite playmakers, terrific in isolation, awesome scorer. James Harden will be the guy to make the sacrifice because he's a terrific playmaker. And Jay Will, He's the one that hasn't won a ring just yet.
Well, you mentioned it.
Exactly.
Those are three of the top
Exactly,
5
Jay Rose.
ISO players, too. Go ahead, Jay.
I was going to say exactly, Jay Rose, after being down 3-1 to the Golden State Warriors, he had it in his clinches. And I'll say this, there's an element of them that remind me a little bit of your squad, Jay Rose, back in the day. Not from a physicality perspective, but there's a little bit of that Detroit Pistons swagger, right? Like, we are the new bad boys of the 21st century, and we're going to do it our way, whether you like it or not. And here's how they actually do it on the court, Maria. You move Kyrie Irving off the ball. You give the ball to James Harden. You play fast. Look, if KD gets a rebound, if Kyrie gets a rebound, or James, you push it up. You play really fast. But if you do get into a half-court scenario, I like the ball in James Harden's hands, considering he averaged 10 assists, especially this year with the Houston Rockets. And think about this from a coaching perspective. You put a blend. Steve Nash did some work with the Golden State Warriors. He understands that continuity system in which they had with Steve Kerr. Now you also have Mike D'Antoni on the same bench that understands James Harden and also understands floor spacing. All these guys are multi-dimensional threats. It's going to work offensively.
And if nothing else, they're going to win games, like 130 to 140 or something like that. We know they're going to be able to score the ball. But the real question is, too, it's not only on the court, it's how these guys function off the court, Jalen. If you had to suggest who the leader of this big three would be, who would you go with?
Oh, KD the leader. No doubt about it. When he went to Golden State, he didn't want to embrace those responsibilities. He's the leader. Because you know what, Maria? The last couple of weeks with Sean Marks, Steve Nash, Mike D'Antoni was trying to call Kyrie, and he was sending him the voicemail. He was answering when he talked to KD. They was like, where's your man? And when it was time to bring in James Harden, they was like, KD, what do you think? Because he's a guy, along with the others, that has a chance to leave after this season or so. So KD now, I think, is going to be comfortable being there. He's going to be comfortable being the leader. Now on the East Coast, man, anchoring what we've seen on the West, with LeBron being the king, and we know about Kawhi and PG. But how about the Splash Brothers when Klay Thompson comes back? This is going to be great theater for the next couple of seasons.
And we know we have
Rose,
all three of them
you.
at least for the next 2 seasons.
Exactly.
Sorry, guys, we're
and
dealing with
Rose,
audio
I'm so
issues
with
back
you.
here.
It is Kevin Durant. It's Kevin Durant. It's not even a question, right? Because when you think about KD in this situation, when he was with OKC, Jay Rose, they were the young pups, right? Nobody really knew how to lead when you have Russell Westbrook and James Harden and Kevin Durant. And then when KD went to become part of the Splash Brothers crew, right? Everybody on that team was extremely professional. It was a well-oiled machine. Now you got Kyrie, a situation, James is going to ball. But I'll say this, Jay Rose, and it's really interesting. And I'm not saying they do it openly, but like James Harden, has he really played with a player that he knows maybe is better than him before in his career? Like with Russell Westbrook or CP3, he was always a guy. Now he's looking at KD like, yo, you KD.
Right.
Like, I know I'm James. I'm still one of the baddest ones there ever is in the game, but you KD. Now everybody in a way kind of acquiesces to Kevin Durant. He just needs to be aggressive with it and tell people what he needs in order to get it done.
And also, Maria, KD, now that he don't have to necessarily carry as much of the load, he going to have time to respond to people on social media. How about Kyrie? He going to be burning a lot more sage. And James Harden, he's going to stimulate the economy of gentlemen's clubs in New York City. I can't wait till these
Jalen,
guys pair up.
I couldn't.
Theater at South Street Seaport.
I couldn't hear you half the block, and the only thing I needed to hear was what you just said. So we're going to move on. We're going away from it. It's time to check out tonight's Signature Style, brought to you by Zales. It's Boban. Check him out walking into the arena. I guess we're just going with a puffer and some sweats today, which is actually miraculous considering how tall he is. So finding sweats at that size, at any size, is Signature Style, brought to you by Zales.
When we're listening to the big timers, imagine he has some gator boots.